Hey, welcome everyone. Oh, there you are, Frankie. Yeah, feel free to put your camera on there. So excited to see everybody on this call. My name is Melissa Gregory, and I'm professor of English and associate dean for the College of Arts and Letters here at the University of Toledo. And I want to welcome all of you to the latest installment in our virtual series called Tell Me Your Story, Liberal Arts Careers, where we invite super interesting people to talk about how their liberal arts careers prepared, or liberal arts degree prepared them for the interesting work that they're doing now. So special thanks to everyone at the University of Toledo who supported this event, including Dean Charlene Gilbert of the College of Arts and Letters, and all of the people who helped me get the word out. I really appreciated that. And also John Idemiller, who is currently managing our Zoom. Also, although we are virtual today, I want to say that the University of Toledo recognizes that the region of Ohio in which the university sits is the ancestral homeland of the Ottawa, Seneca, and the Erie people. So with that, I'm very honored to introduce our guest tonight, Mr. Franky Gonzalez. Because we are going to learn a lot about Franky's story in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to forego delivering the comprehensive and shining biography that I would normally offer when introducing a guest, where you get to hear all about Franky's amazing awards and all of the accolades that he's earned. And I'm going to just tell you instead that he's a really successful playwright and a great TV writer. And what we're going to do tonight is talk about how he got from where he started to where he is right now. So welcome, Franky, and feel free to unmute if that makes it easier there.
Yeah, I think it does.
Absolutely. So how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you all so very much for having me here. I'm honored, and thanks for being willing to listen to my ramblings and everything.
Oh,
I apologize about the glasses. Just to let y'all know, I this isn't a style thing. I promise. They're actually prescription, but I got a son. He for like 5 years straight now, he's 5. He has destroyed every single regular pair of glasses that I have, but for some odd reason, he leaves the sunglasses alone. So they have become an unfortunate style choice. And now even my representatives are like, we kind of tell everyone to look for the dude in the sunglasses. So this is who I am now. My son is my unofficial costumer. So that's why I apologize about the sunglasses. I know it's a little rude. But yeah.
You're now a man who wears his sunglasses at night and you can't get out of it.
My sunglasses at night, so right.
Well, I love it. So basically, Franky, tell us a little bit just about your kind of history, like your childhood growing up. Where are you
Yeah.
from? What was your
Mhm,
childhood like? Just kind
mhm.
of get right in there.
Right. Well, my name's Franky Gonzalez. I'm of Colombian descent. My father was an immigrant. My mother was an American citizen, single mom. She raised us both in my brother and myself in New York City, in Queens. So that's where I come from. That's where I hail from. Um, not the greatest of circumstances, but my mother did everything she could. Working 4 jobs, doing the best that she could to make sure that we stayed alive and had a roof over our heads. And one day she decided, you know what, the streets took basically every single man of this family, but they're not taking my boys. So she packed us up, moved us down to the south, and we stayed in Florida for a little bit. And then the 2008 financial crisis came over about 2 years earlier to Florida, 2006. So she packed us up again, and she was like, "We're out of here." And I'm not even kidding. She was like, "I don't know where we're gonna go." So she blindfolded herself, got out a map of the U.S., right, and she got a pen and she stabbed right at it, and we ended up in Texas. And that's how we moved
Oh,
over to Texas. She just chose that, and I've been there since. Currently, I split my time between Los Angeles and Dallas, but as of this pandemic, I'm still like in Dallas, because Dallas, the money stretches a little longer than in LA. I graduated from the University of North Texas with a BA in theater arts. Um, yeah, and I've been wanting to be a writer since I was 5.
yeah.
Since the age of 5, I knew I wanted to be some kind of a writer somehow, some way. And I can actually, I like trace it. I have like the whole origin story and everything, but yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. That map thing is crazy. It sounds like a movie, or it's a very dramatic scene.
That's why I ended up in playwriting and
Yeah,
in writing for dramas, because my mother was nothing if not a dramatic woman.
yeah,
Um, is nothing if not a dramatic woman. But yeah.
yeah. Could I ask you,
Mhm.
so a lot of the students who go to U Toledo are
Mhm.
students who are the first kind of generation in their
Right.
family to have gone to college. And it sounds like that was your case as well, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know, talk a little bit about like what it's like to be a first gen student. I think it's different for
Mhm.
folks who have had, parents who already went to college and kind of knew the ropes. So,
Right, right. Yeah, it's really interesting. My mother and I actually, we went to different colleges because she had to go with something more low res than I did when I went to UNT. And we went to college together, so it was one of those things where it's like we both went at the same time, and
uh,
I would help her out with some assignments here and there.
what was your mom's major?
My mother's major was business administration, if I'm
Nice.
recalling correctly, and she went on and got a master's in it.
Wow.
And she and I both went through the whole thing. We got into the required courses, the things that is just like the whole figuring out how to maneuver through signing up for classes, FAFSA, all of that, and we were kind of figuring it out together. And that is one of those things that I guess is a benefit to having your mother also be going to college with you at the same time. But it was it was not easy coming from a single household, because the first week that we got in, I almost wasn't even able to go at all
Mhm.
um, to college, because we just couldn't afford some of the fees that were non-waivable. Luckily, some people came through for us, my aunt specifically, and I was able to get in. But it was one of those things where I was alone on campus. I didn't know nobody. The only home that I I'm no longer there. I'm doing the dorm life, and I'm having to navigate this entirely new world and set my own schedule and be the most responsible person. And I had no one really to lean on, because my mom was learning how to do that herself, trying to go to college, go to work, doing all that. So it was one of those periods of adjustment where I will confess my freshman year, first semester, like grades. It was tough. It really was tough. And so that year was kind of a wash, and I ended up having to retake a lot of the classes that I bombed in freshman year an extra semester after. So I stayed for 4.5 years in college. But yeah, it was an interesting experience navigating it. I think the biggest thing that I also felt in being kind of like this first was a sense of imposter syndrome. And I don't know if it's something that a lot of other people go through, in that I don't belong here. There are so many people that are so much more intelligent than me. There are so many people that they understand the system a whole lot better. Meanwhile, here I am trying to figure out how this freaking student ID works, and trying to figure out the ins and outs of how to get into the good classes, or this or that, and how to write essays
Mhm.
to the standard of a university, because I love my public school education, but there were some areas where you fall through the cracks and everything. So there was a learning curve, but eventually um, it got to where I was able to maneuver it. I was able to get through and get my degree in theater. So there was a lot of that at first, though, that whole I don't belong here because I'm just some poor kid. I'm just some poor Colombian kid who came from Queens in the middle of freaking Texas. I don't belong. Who am I? And then you slowly get past that. But there in many ways you don't get past it. You just learn how to maneuver with it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
So, so when you were there, did you did you know, like, here's what I want to major in for
Yeah.
sure? I like from day one. I mean, we have lots of people who come in undecided, right?
Hmm. Hmm. So I'd known I wanted to be a writer since I was 5. The reason that I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was 5 was my uncle one time left a Walkman at my mom's apartment in Queens, and inside of it was the cassette of the Notorious B.I.G.'s "Ready to Die." Biggie Smalls and his words. I love the beats, but the thing that I fell in love with was how the man rhymed. And yes, the lyrics are very violent. The lyrics are extremely misogynistic, problematic. But for me at the time, to hear them, it was just like, there's one that will always stick with me. Your face, my feet, they meet, we're stomping. I'm ripping MCs from Tallahassee to Compton. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, as a 5-year-old. And I knew I wanted to be a writer since then. I quickly realized I was not a very good rapper. I realized my novel writing was not great because I just could not sustain that length without myself just wandering off. My short stories were my poetry was, oh my gosh, don't ever show those to people. But at around the age of 16, when my mother first moved us out to Texas, we were choosing our classes, and she told me, you're going to take a theater class. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, you're taking the theater class. I'm like, Mom, nah, I'm not doing that. That ain't gangster. What are you talking about? I ain't going to get in no tights and do that Romeo stuff. What are you talking about? And she was like, you're going to become an educated, cultured individual, and you got to do that with the theater. You understand me? You're going to be what your father never was. And so I ended up being forced to take the class. And while I was there, the teacher saw that I really loved reading books. I can't remember what the book that I had at the time was, whether it was Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Cormac McCarthy, but I was in love with words and I admired it. I just didn't know how to access it. I wasn't very good at any of it. And she asked me, hey, have you ever read plays before? And I said, I knew plays existed, but conceptually, I never acknowledged them as a real thing of literature, of literary value that was meant to be read. I only understood that Shakespeare was the only plays that I'd ever been exposed to as a kid. And so she said, here, I think you'll like these. If you like this, Cormac McCarthy, Thomas Pynchon stuff, she handed me Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, Luigi Pirandello's 6 Characters in Search of an Author, and Federico Garcia Lorca's Blood Wedding. And that was it. I read them that night, and I knew this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. At the age of 16, I found that I wanted to do scripts. That's all I thought about. The moment I read 6 Characters, that was the first book that I opened up. 6 Characters in Search of an Author changed everything for me. And I knew that this is what I wanted to do. So that summer, that year, in junior year in high school, I read over 180 plays, just trying to learn the form, trying to learn the medium, thinking I needed to catch up. And I knew this is what I want to major in college. This is all I want to do. So when I went in, I was just like, I'm a theater major, straight up the get-go. And that was because my mother forced me to take a liberal arts class. She felt that it was important for me to culture myself. I don't know if this was necessarily the path she wanted me to end up on. I'm sure lawyer or engineer or something like that. But when she saw that I found a direction, she was very happy with that. And she was extremely supportive when I told her I want to be a playwright. And she's like, well, you can't get any poorer. So, I guess you're okay. So that's what, so that's really where I came to it. I knew what I wanted to do the moment that I found that thing, because it took my breath away to read those. Yeah.
What was it? I mean, what was it about? Because you try all these other genres, right? And you like the words, but the genre. What is it about the play that speaks to you?
It's just talking. That's it. It's just talking. One of the things that if there's one thing that a Colombian household is really good at, it's talking for hours on end and just holding a dialogue going back and forth, just being like, I know, and you'll just talk chisme all freaking night long. And so when I would read these things, when I would read the high drama or the lack thereof when it came to people like Beckett, it was like I was watching myself. I was watching my family. I was watching an access point by which I conceptually understood this can hold my attention, because we are so used to sitting around for 2.5 hours just talking. And some of us are just sitting there listening to 2 people going back and forth as we watch maybe a slow motion train wreck happen over Thanksgiving, or we're watching a really passionate, oh my gosh, did you hear what she did? Mira, Sandra, when you did it, and you see all that. So to me, it's like, I'm hearing my parents talk. Or with Waiting for Godot, for example, by Samuel Beckett, I saw a lot of my brother and I sitting around at home with no TV, no video games, no nothing, and just saying, what do we do? And we're just utterly bored, waiting for something. And what are we waiting? We don't even know what we're waiting for. Truly, we're waiting for some way out. We're waiting for Godot to show up. And so it was to me, reading those, I understood it. It felt like home, because I was going really quickly with the characters, going down the dialogue, going really quickly, and understanding when someone hits a pause, that's just like, oh, they're setting up the dramatic moment here. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, and I felt it viscerally. And so that's really what it was about the genre, is that I understood it because that's all we do is talk. You see me doing it right now. I'm babbling like all crazy, and that's just it just resonated with me. Yeah.
That's great. So when you were in college, like you're
Mhm.
reading these plays, which I also love. I love it that you decided that in order to get into this, it was kind of like full on immersion, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to read all the plays.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I mean, I think is useful for people to recognize that sense of like, if you're going to commit, you
Right.
gotta go deep.
Well,
But
yeah, it's an interesting thing when you're talking about the immersive thing. The only real good male influences that I had in my life also happened to be incarcerated men,
mm,
and they had nothing but time on their hands. And when I told them that I wanted to do theater, they were proud. They were like, "Oh, you're gonna be an artist? Look at you! That's so fancy. All right, so when you gonna write about me?" But then, like my grandfather would say, well, if you want to be a writer, you should learn how the best people write so that you can know how to write the best version of yourself as well.
yeah,
And so he would have me read not just plays, but they would have me read short stories by like Franz Kafka. They would have me read Gabriel Garcia Marquez. They would have me read like even obscure things like Bruno Schultz. They would just have me read it, and then I would have to bring back analysis of the thing to them, because they're like, I'm part of a book club, and if you don't bring it back, I'm going to humiliate myself. And you don't want me humiliating myself, do you? So you need to tell me what this whole thing is. So why is this guy turned into a cockroach? Or why do these guys want to kill themselves? Or why is Shakespeare talking about this like a Romeo, Romeo? Why is it in lines instead of just straight up this way? And they would teach me to critically analyze literature. And I thought I was teaching them, but they were the ones that were forcing me to like get and read and understand and try to know from what tradition am I trying to enter into and where I came from in order to for me to have a direction going forward in my future. They encourage that, because if you want to be the best, you got to learn from the best. That's how they simplified it for me. And so that's where that came from.
yeah. So it sounds like you had like family and friend support, right? Trying to get you to sort of like push you. Did that happen in your classes? I mean, were you just reading as a theater major, or did you get to sort of test out your plays? Like what opportunities do you have if you're majoring in theater?
Yeah. So
What
as
do you
a,
do?
as a theater major, one of the things that I realized really early on is that opportunities are slim.
Mm,
They're very slim, even in the collegiate level, to see your plays come to life in some way, shape, or form. And so it became one of those things that it became incumbent upon me to learn how to find ways to get those opportunities. So that meant going in and learning how to establish my own club so that I can get used to the use of the classrooms, or going to already an established club and ingratiating myself with them so that I can see my plays come to life somehow, some way. It meant going to my local theaters in my area so that I can learn about what it takes to produce a play, or what goes into the decision making process of selecting a play or selecting a season. I went and took acting classes so that I can learn what is going to be of use in a script to an actor. I would take makeup classes to learn, okay, well, how did they get that giant makeup change from scene one to scene two? And like the makeup teacher would very bluntly say, well, you see that 3-page monologue, that's how we get the makeup change. And so it became an understanding and analysis of, it is more than just the literary merit, but the actual practical application of it. That
mm,
if you're putting a giant monologue here, is it because you need time to be able to get the actors changed into new clothes, or change the set out, or do whatever,
mm,
all of those things. So really what college had afforded me was the opportunity to start looking around at different things from different perspectives so that I can improve my own playwriting and learn how my scripts can be of use and producible to people. And sometimes that would also require me having to go and producing my own works, finding a club that's willing to sponsor me. I don't know how the rules vary, with different university systems, but in ours, we needed to be officially sponsored by a club in order to be able to put on any kind of a play. I had to learn how to get my own insurance. I had to learn how to,
mm,
all of these things. But what I found was really something that I'm grateful for in universities and in studying the liberal arts, was that I was able to do all of these things and make my mistakes in school. in an academic setting rather than crashing and burning after wagering $20,000, $30,000 that I've saved up and putting up a play. After, you know, not having to worry about things like rental spaces or having to worry about things like trying to get sets together. I had scene cubes. I could get, you know, find a way to make it work with the resources that were given to me. And so it allowed me to experiment. It allowed me to see, oh, this isn't going to work. Let me change and pivot to this, or let me write this instead. And it allowed me to figure out how to interface and talk with actors, how to work collaboratively. All of these different things that the university gave me, I was able to experiment with and go forward on. But the big thing is that this all happened outside of class. The resources that I took advantage of were resources that I had to look up myself. There were things that I would have to write my own proposals. I would have to write my own, like, quote unquote, what we would call in the business the pitch, to try to convince people to say, yeah, all right, let's do it. Okay, yes, you can hold an audition. We'll sign off on it. Here's the room rental. All of those things I had to do myself. And, you know, while I had that time, because I'm gonna tell you right now, learning how to do all of those things, like the production stuff, is much harder to do when you also have to go to work, pay bills, and you don't have something like financial aid, being able to pay off your rent and cover most of your food for the year. I had the time to do it, and so I devoted a lot of my time to learning how to actually practically apply my craft so that I can practice my form, my liberal arts training. So I learned administration in that sense, so that I can be a writer. I learned to be an administrator, because otherwise I'm competing against Pulitzer Prize winners for the main stage at my theater. You know, it's not going to happen. I gotta put my own stuff and prove my own worth my way and learn. So that's really what I did while there. Is I found out about the different resources on my free time, and I found professors that would sponsor me. I formed relationships with people so that I can learn how to do this. Oh, how do you build a scene cube? Even stuff, you know, stuff as innocuous as that, or like, how do I get the chairs together, or how do I make sure to properly make sure that this ramp doesn't fall on the actor the moment that they like step on it or something, you know, stuff like that.
You
That
got to
is
buy
just,
the insurance. So.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, buy that insurance. Yo, get that insurance. Let me tell you. But yeah, that's really it came down to me having to form the relationships,
Yeah.
and me learning to also apply other aspects of the liberal arts degree that I would get, like speech, like rhetoric, things like that would eventually go into me being able to see my works come to life by my own hand.
That's awesome. So it sounds like first of all, wearing all the hats, right? Which is always useful, because you think you want one job, but the truth is it always has like 8 other jobs attached. And if you know
Yeah.
how to do them all, then you do the one more effectively, right? But also
Yes.
just a lot of cold calling, a lot of hustling,
Mm-hmm.
which,
Mm-hmm.
that happens.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And the other thing is, you learn about the market in that way.
Mhm.
You learn about what something is actually worth when you're talking about things like my time and my labor.
Mhm.
When you actually start learning the value of things, or how expensive things like Final Draft are, or how expensive the full Adobe suite is, and to have
Really expensive.
access to the Adobe suite as a student and have that discounted rate. Let me tell you, it's a difference maker. It really is, in terms of whether or not you can make some really cool graphics, or whether or not you can make some posters that communicate everything. It's that stuff. And once you learn all of those things, you know how to most effectively create a play that's tailored to an institution that
Mm.
you begin to have a relationship with.
So that's great. It sounds like though you graduate from college and you don't immediately just like move to Hollywood or
No,
move to Broadway or
no.
I mean, you took on a day job, right?
Yeah,
Is that correct? What did you
yeah.
do right after college?
Yeah. Directly after college, I joined a telecom company,
Hmm.
and I was a salesperson. Before college, well, during college, I did fundraising for the university with cold calling,
Hmm.
and I would be like, you know, let me see if I can still do it. Thank you so much for calling us here at the University of North Texas. My name is Frankie, and I'm calling on behalf of the College of Arts and Sciences. We saw that you left us an email recently. You just have
That's
to,
very good.
you know,
I will hire
and
you.
yeah, and you would and I would learn how to try to get people to give me money, which is difficult, having someone part with their money. And then on the other end of that, once I got out of school, I used the skills that I gained from my acting classes and learning how to speak, and
Yeah.
learning how to memorize scripts, and learning how to do all that, to learn how to turn that into um, sales calls for television, internet, TV, home phone, cellular services with AT&T. That's the telecom company that I eventually went to work for. And I'm not gonna lie, it was, it's not the spectacular, glamorous anything, but the one thing that I do not at any point or at all believe in is the idea of the starving artist. I don't believe in the quote unquote bohemian romanticism. That is the fastest way to burn out in this business, is to suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer, and then it comes to nothing because you're going to just, you know, be rejected, and you think you're getting really really far in a competition or a big contest or a big opportunity, and you lose out to someone who has a better resume than you. You lose out to someone who has a this, that, or the other, whatever factors. I don't believe in those things. I suffered enough as a kid. I grew up with the rats and roaches in Queens. My mother did the best that she could, but we still had what we had. And I was at that point married to a wonderful, wonderful woman from Morocco, whom I was trying to bring into this country. And soon after she came to this country, I had my son. I graduated in 2013. My son was born in 2015. So there were, to me, there was no option on this matter. I was not going to put my son through any kind of suffering just for my ego. I wasn't going to go back to New York and have him go through the rats and roaches I went through. I went and got the corporate job. But the one thing that I learned to master in myself is to not let myself despair in the fact that I'm not necessarily on my direct path, my direct journey. I always kept to what I wanted to do at night. I would keep what I call the Kafka schedule, where it would be something like I'd get home at 9 p.m. and I'd spend time with my family until around 11. Then from about 11 till 4 a.m., I would write, go to sleep, wake up at like 7, 8 a.m. Because my 20s, it's horrible. Do not get me wrong, it's awful. But I wanted to write that much. I wanted to write my plays. I wanted to write my ideas down. And I would use the overtime that they would offer to save up money to produce a play. I would use the vacation time that I would get eventually after working a certain amount of time to take time off and go to a theater conference. I would do all of that. I never lost sight of the fact that this is the thing that I want to do for the rest of my life. It's just sometimes you have to take some detours in order to get to your eventual endpoint. So that's really where it came to. And with AT&T, as grueling as a call center corporate job was, they gave me the keys on how to present myself, on how to better interview myself, or how to better talk with people, especially when it came to things like getting them to buy into me as a person. Because when you're selling something, you're never selling a product, you're selling yourself to them, and they're buying from you. Otherwise, they just go online. That's just the fact,
Mhm.
just go online and buy it on Amazon. Why not? So that's really what it gave me. And again, going back to the liberal arts degree, that came from the classes that I would take. That came from the kinds of trainings that I would put myself through in order to become a more complete playwright. I was able to become a better corporate call center worker, which then helped me to get stories, write plays, and get to a place where I was comfortable enough to eventually say I'm out and go over to doing writing full time.
That's very interesting. And that sounds, but it sounds hard. Like you had to
Yeah.
work really, really hard.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So let me ask, so how, I mean, so eventually you start getting produced more, right? Like how do you get from plays to Hollywood,
Right.
and how does that relationship work?
Right. So in the middle of doing all the corporate work and everything, the one thing that I was always doing is I was submitting my plays to different competitions. I was submitting
Mhm.
my scripts to different opportunities for development, fellowships, whatever it may be. I had been doing that from the age of 16
Mm.
till 2016, 2017 is when things started to really work out. So that was around 2008 to 2015, 2016. So I was deep into um, submitting and getting rejected constantly, and it would be
Mhm.
a constant thing. And I would have to come up with a new play all the time. because I can't submit the play that got rejected last year. What the heck
Mhm.
am I thinking? You know,
Right.
so I would have to constantly come up with new things. I would have to constantly come up with new work, and I would have to constantly pony up the money for the submission fees, and I would have to get rejected. Um, and then one day I decided I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna write whatever I want to write. I'm not gonna try to write what they want me to write or what I think they want me to write. And I sent it off, and all of a sudden I won a contest.
Mm.
I won another contest and another contest and another contest. And next thing I know, I've been called by the Lark Play Development Center over
Mhm.
in New York City. Um, Prestigious, wonderful people, beautiful, beautiful people. I consider them all family. But they invited me. They developed my play, and I went over to Omaha for another thing called the Great Plains Theater Conference, where that same play that got developed with Lark went and got developed with them. And while there, I was on a school bus going to the place because they ferried us from the hotel to the school bus. And I sat next to this woman, and we just started chatting. I didn't know who she was. I didn't. It didn't matter. She was sitting alone, and that was the only chair. And I was like, all right, let me sit next to her. And I was just like, hi, how you doing? My name is Franky. Um, we chatted. I asked to read her play. She was a playwright, and she sent it to me. The next day, I was gushing about it, talking to her about it. She asked me, "Well, what play are you doing?" I tell her the name of my play, and when the reading is happening, she was there, and she comes out and she says, "Do you have an agent?" And I'm like, "No, I don't have an agent. I'm sorry." And she's like, "That's fine. Give me a sec." She sends an email out, sends my script over to an agent. Agent gets back to me, wants to rep me. And then from there, that same person I hadn't realized was the director of development
Ah,
for 13 Reasons Why, that I just sat next to on a bus and said, "Hi, how you doing? I'm Franky." Um,
the
had I,
rewards of being sociable.
yes, exactly. It's like just saying hi and being nice and offering to read someone else's script just completely
Mhm.
out of the blue without asking about what's in it for me. And then that's what eventually led me to getting everything, was just being nice and being willing to go out, staying up the late nights to write the play that was necessary to get me invited to those conferences, taking the days off from work that I should be spending it with my family. God bless them. They've given up so much so that I can do this.
Mhm.
Um, and going to Omaha of all places, and sitting on a bus in Omaha and being nice to a woman on a bus in Omaha ended up getting me an agent and getting my job with 13 Reasons Why, just because I was nice to her and just because she liked my play when she saw it. And really, that's what it came down to. And it's something that a lot of people are not going to find useful that are watching. I know, don't get me wrong, but I think that there is something in that. I was always nice to everyone. I was always kind to everyone. I made time for my art, and I also made time to uplift other people's art. A lot of people are enamored with the idea of the auteur. A lot of people are enamored with the idea of the single person, the singular artist, and a lot of those people are getting their reckoning right now in Hollywood and in other areas of the arts. These single mind, these single geniuses. But I'm going to tell y'all right now that there is no such thing as that. It is about the people that you're kind to. It's about the people that you uplift. It is about the people that you go out of your way to say, "Hey, I really love your play." Or it's about going to that tiny little theater space in wherever the small town a few miles over, and helping out there, and then finding out that that person is actually connected with Manhattan Theater Club over in New York, and they're down here because they just want to do their own thing and pass their time in their retirement years. It is about just being kind. And if I had not just been kind, and if I had not just offered without any expectation for any kind of return to read someone's script, I don't know where my career would be. And really, the biggest thing, and that's the one thing that a liberal arts degree will always teach you, is empathy and kindness and humanity are the things that you need in order to get those circumstances to work for you. And then your own ability to be there. It's not going to be something that people are going to roll out a red carpet for you and be like, "You're a genius, let us go." You have to kind of go out there and show people, "Hey, I really want to work with you, and I'd be honored for the opportunity to be in your presence, or to learn from you, or to learn with you. Can I come along for this ride? Can I usher? Can I distribute programs? Can I put up posters around the campus? Can I do all these things?" And you start building those relationships, because the person that's trying to put on their play at room 127 in whatever building in the campus, you never know, might end up being the director of development for a television show years down the line, and they remember you if you're still in the game. They're like, wait a minute, what do you do? Let me see your script. Oh my God, I like this. And that's really what it comes down to, is that willingness to be there and that willingness to be present, even if it means that you might not get anything out of it. That's especially the hardest part, is you might not get something out of this, but you're still there anyway, because it's not about getting anything out of it. It's because of the love of the craft, the love of the art, and because you just want to be of service and be around it for just a little longer. We have a wonderful privilege going to colleges and being able to pursue arts the way that we do as Americans, or the way that we do as people coming to the United States to study these crafts, and that is to be able to dream. There are other places, even some members of my own family, that do not have the luxury to dream. So why don't I take advantage of every opportunity to keep that dream alive, and to help other people live their dream with the kind of service that I can give them at no return except for, let's go get a drink after. Let's go get some nachos. That's all we can afford. And that's it, really. To be available, to be of service, to leave a good impression. Our industry trades in kindness. Our industry trades in only kindness, and kindness is what's going to get you the job at the end of the day. Talent is great, talent is wonderful, but being kind, being someone that's well liked, being someone that's easy going, and being someone that's there and willing to help, in any way. And this is not to encourage exploitation. Do not let yourself get exploited. Huge difference, between knowing what you're able to do and then someone taking advantage of you. But if you are able to do that and it's within your capacity, yeah, that's how it worked for me. Just being nice. I'm rambling.
No, that you're both in a really beautiful way, and I really appreciate that. And it sounds like what you're talking about is also, I mean, you have to be more rigorous with yourself, but it's also a happier way to live, right? There's more fulfillment if you know you've moved through the world with some deliberateness and some kindness, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, it's not worth it to me to be otherwise.
Yeah.
The world, I won't cry. The world has been horrible to me, man. My father was not a good man to me. And despite the guys in prison telling me to pursue my art and my mom being supportive of me, there were a lot of people in my family that were like, what the hell are you doing? There were a lot of people that would work with me and tell me, what the hell are you doing? There were even professors that I had that would say, you're not going anywhere. Um, there were even, people that the moment that I had a kid, I actually got the whole, well, your career's dead now. And instead of just trying to just be like, hey, you know what, it's going to be hard, but try to find a way, I would get that kind of stuff. And I have come to the conclusion that I refuse to allow myself to be embittered by other people and live in a world where that bitterness reigns, over everything. That bitterness means nothing. It is so useless when all of our endings are the same. Just whatever metaphysical beliefs you may have of what's beyond this, we will leave this husk eventually. We are going to exit out. And why am I going to waste my time, my precious, precious, very few minutes, my precious, precious hours on being angry, bitter, negative, or bringing other people down? Instead, let's try to find a way to make this work. Let's try to find to make this happen. Let's try to find something to do, that will at least bring me some joy instead of wallowing in the misery. I get depression. I get it so on a deep, level. But there came a point where I had to negotiate with that depression and say, look, yeah, it's useless. It's horrible. This life might be meaningless. So then why not let me play the game for a little longer? Why not let me just be happy? Why not let me just be a ray of sunshine to people? If it's useless anyway, if I'm a Debbie Downer versus a ray of sunshine, then at least let me be the freaking ray of sunshine. It comes to the same thing in the end. And, I want to be what the world wasn't necessarily to me growing up. And that's the philosophy that I take as an artist. I want to help as many people as possible, and I want to help answer any questions that I can, or give whatever guidance I can for whatever it's worth. That's, yeah, that's me.
That's lovely. I actually do want to offer the audience the chance to ask questions in the question box, and I'll kind of relay them back to Franky. Although I did want to ask, so you can start start doing that anytime, audience. But Franky, I did want to ask you just a little bit about writing for TV, though, because I know
Mhm,
I have some
mhm.
people on this call who are kind of
Yeah,
interested in that, and you're writing
yeah,
for Netflix, which is now, TV has changed so much since I was a
right,
child. So
right.
Netflix is now making all the content, it seems, in the world.
Mhm,
And but 13 Reasons Why in particular was a show that got a lot of attention, right? It had a
mhm.
little bit of controversy attached. I mean, what was it like to kind of walk into that situation?
Yeah, it was funny because I wasn't with 13 Reasons Why from the very beginning. I
Right.
was there for the final season, for season four. If y'all want to bump up my residuals, watch episode 5 in season 4. That's the one I co-wrote. But anyway, um, it is an interesting thing because television writing, unlike playwriting, is an effort towards a sort of group think and
Mm-hmm.
an effort towards getting rid of your ego. A playwright is told from the get-go, your words matter, no one can change your words, it's your copyright, all of that stuff. When you get into a writing room, you are not writing your vision of the show, you are trying to write toward the showrunner's vision of the show. You're
Mm-hmm.
trying to write towards what they want to see happen with the direction of their show, and it is incumbent upon you to be able to be of service toward that with what skills you can bring to the table. So television writing is extremely humbling in that I am not in it to see my words come to life on the television screen, but rather to see my contributions or my idea that I pitched in the middle of a writer's room come to life on the television screen. So it is a kind of a different mindset than it is with playwriting. You're having to be there in a structure where you're going to have to give of yourself, put aside your ego, and when no is no from the higher ups, whether it's the showrunner, the other co-EPs in the writers' room, it's a no, and you just accept that, and you just keep going, and you just keep trying your best to be of service and to be a contributor to the entire process. So it is a little bit different in playwriting. There's also the other thing, like you have page limits because you only have so many minutes with television. You also have structural things to think about, especially with ensembles. You have how long your scene can actually last because there are metrics and everything that dictate everything. If you study music at all, if anyone studies music, you'll see that music runtime, song runtimes have gone lower and lower, and they're now under 3 minutes generally because studies have shown that Spotify users will not listen beyond 3 minutes. So songs are now less than 3 minutes so that you can get maximized on the profits. It's really a whole lot of that stuff. And the showrunner
Yeah.
does not let you know about any of those things, but those are the things that end up, coming up naturally. It's just like that seems a little too long and it rambles a little. Can we cut it down a little? What is the press play moment? What is the thing, the dramatic moment at the very end of the script that's going to make you go to the next episode so that you can binge it straight through and then rewatch it again? What's going to be the thing that's going to keep you attracted to it? And so there is a lot of collaborative efforts. There's a lot of talking. There's a
Yeah.
lot of working through ideas, and then understanding that um, just because it's not your specific lines does not mean that you did not contribute.
Mm.
So you're contributing towards an idea because you will be rewritten in television. This is not one of those things like, oh, I'm so great as a writer, I'm not gonna be no,
Right.
you will be rewritten. There is no avoiding it. It's just not. It's not.
Right.
Um, you will be, and you make peace with that. And the way that you know that you've been good as a television writer is if the showrunner's happy with it. You can see why this would eventually contribute to the massive, like um, cults of personality that exist among certain people. But luckily, with 13 Reasons Why, they were a lovely group. I love them all very, very much, and they were very supportive with my time with them. And I'm grateful. I was grateful for the opportunity to be able to contribute and to lend my experience and my expertise to the show's elements, like boxing, for example.
Mhm. Nice. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to start sort of throwing a couple of questions. We have one from Zach that's very high level. Zach
Mhm.
writes, since so much media is visual or ends up visual, how do you leverage or think about the synergy or the disparity between visual and textual concerns?
That's a question for really a showrunner rather than a television writer.
Hmm,
You know, that's one
right.
of those things where a
Yeah.
showrunner and the director and the cinematographer, the DP, are going to be working out those elements. You should be evocative enough with the words that you're putting in, like the stage directions of a television script, that it makes someone excited to record that thing, or they're like, oh no, I know exactly what kind of shots to be able to capture that feeling of dread, or how to get the, you know, how to get to that place. So really it's less about the lines of dialogue that you put on and much more about how you evoke that in the stage direction. Believe it or not, so much of this is stage direction. So much of it is in that subtext and in that visual. And really what you want your visual language to do is contribute where dialogue is not necessary. Television is not a dialogue based medium. It is one of those, like, you will get through bat, 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 bat. It's just a few lines, but you're going to be seeing like the image happening in the background. You know, when you're going through, like, say you're doing a Sorkin style, you're walking and you're walking, passing all this activity, showing how much is buzzing, how much is going around, and showing how important this is as you're walking with them, and you're a fly on the wall in that. Your language in the stage direction has to reflect how important that is. And so you make choices as to what your scene is going to be, how your scene is going to be deployed, and how the dialogue is going to be delivered. If it's in an elevator, it should be an intimate moment. If it's out in the open, it should be something that maybe they're not even looking at each other, they're taking in the field, and you see the beauty of it. As you say, life is beautiful, and you cut over to a beautiful field of flowers, you know, and that says everything. You don't need to talk about how life is beautiful. It is beautiful. It's kind of I would suggest like watching the films of Terrence Malick to really get an idea and read his scripts, because so much of it is visual poetry, and finding that visual poetry that will deal with things that dialogue can't necessarily do without boring people um, is something that it is an art form. And but it's all about just being creative enough to see the vision for yourself.
Did you actually, I'm going to interrupt the
Yeah.
question line just really quick. Did you do the same thing with TV and film scripts that you did with plays, where you kind of immersed yourself? The Malick comment made me realize, like, oh yeah, I've never read a Malick script, although I've watched
Hmm.
his movies and admired them. Did you kind of
Yeah.
dive deep in there?
I tried to. I tried to. It is one of those things where I would, because television itself is unlike theater. Television is not quote unquote known for its literary merit.
Hmm.
So you're kind of watching. You go and look up at the screen, look down at the script, and that's kind of like how I learned. So I
Hmm.
would get the pilot for Mad Men, the pilot for Breaking Bad, the pilot for 13 Reasons Why, and I would compare and see what made
Hmm.
it on, what didn't, and go back and forth. My agents provided me the scripts, but they're also, these are scripts that you can find online easily. Just type in Mad Men pilot PDF, and you
Uh-huh.
should be able to find it. And you will be able to see, oh, so that's how they do it. I
Oh.
highly encourage anyone, if you want to see how things are executed perfectly, read the blueprint. You
Mm.
know, you go, and you will never you'll you'll never know how beautiful a building is until you experience the going into the building itself. And
Mhm.
when you read a script and you watch it along with watching the television show, you kind of start learning things about it. And then it kind of also makes you appreciate those uber geniuses that don't use a script at all, yet they're still able to make something beautiful,
Mm.
like a Wong Kar Wai or a Jean-Luc Godard. But you know, that's a whole different, and everything. But yeah, that is what I did. I read a bunch of different scripts in the YA and great pilot section, and I tried learning as best I could. I also read some books about, you know, how to stage conflict and everything. But really, it was just about diving in, getting the pilot, watching the pilot, looking down at the script, and seeing, oh, so that's how it translated this way,
Mhm.
and figuring it out.
Nice.
Hmm.
So I have a question from Doug. Doug, I'm going to answer your first question, which is just that Franky is not a U Toledo alum. He's just visiting. But your second question is, Doug wants to know, how has social media and all the new and sort of different processes of media distribution changed the creation or the writing process?
It's
Or how-
democratized it. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
democratized it. Issa Rae got her start doing Facebook videos. You know, there's so many content creators who are selling or getting their stuff optioned based off of just skits that they make off of their iPhone. And it's democratized the access to art in a way that um, you don't need to have X, Y, or Z funding or X, Y, or Z major big institution or studio backing you in order to make something that's going to draw attention. You just have to have something that is going to draw people in. The other thing that social media has done that has not necessarily been available previously is you get more access to artists so that you can start learning from them and you can start reaching out to them or you can start supporting them. I use social media as a way to support other artists, to uplift, and to try to always be like a cheerleader for people and to let people know, hey, this is what I do in my craft, or I'm available here. And when you're able to communicate with other artists, it makes the entire thing feel a lot less lonely. And you'll realize that, oh, they might have solutions that I can mine from here, and they might need something from me as well. And so it's a great tool by which you can get in contact with other people. But social media has democratized things in such a way that you can make your own content and it doesn't have to be great. Very famously, the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia pilot was shot on a cheap, even for that time, camcorder, like $100 camcorder. And they had a budget that they made up. They said that they had no budget, but they said it was $200 in order to fill out the form. And really, that's it. And just get some friends. So, but you can still put your stuff out there. Before, you had to go through distribution. Before, you had to go through producers. Before, you had to get people to get the final say as to the cut of your script. Now you just make your own thing, and if it's working and resonating with people, guess what? You get your deal. You get optioned. You get produced somehow. That's really one of those things that I personally, someone coming from a background that did not allow me the privilege of being able to access the industry from the jump. I had to find my way in. This is a great tool. Social media is a great way to get yourself out there and to get yourself known and to get eyeballs on you.
Are there social media tactics that you would actually recommend for sort of positively sort of promoting your art? Because I know,
Mhm,
for me, social media is kind of a source of stress because I'm like, I don't have any Twitter followers because I don't
mhm,
even remember to check it, right? And my
mhm,
teenage
mhm,
daughter mocks me
mhm.
mercilessly.
Right.
So how, like, let's say I wanted to do that. I made something and I want to put it out there.
Mhm.
What do I do? What are my strategies?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is maximizing on things like hashtags.
Mhm.
It's also, it really
Write
does
it
come right down. Yeah, I know, right? It's
down.
messing with the algorithm, all of that, and those things are important, yes. But honestly, and this connects with the other thing that I was talking about earlier, because I am willing before I'm putting up anything at all to advertise and cheerlead and advocate for other people. When
Yeah.
it's my time to put something up, those people are going to be a little bit more inclined to advocate,
Right.
cheerlead, fundraise, do stuff for me because I've done something for them without wanting anything back in return. So
Hmm.
this is an entire give and take. This business is based virtually on you being there for them, and then eventually they will come back and help you. Some won't. Don't get me wrong. It is not a high amount, but it's those small ones that eventually your followers start growing. You see, and even if you have things going on, you're still advocating for other people. You're still that nice person. You're still someone that tries to be there for people. You'll find that they're going to advocate for you,
Mm.
even if the piece of art that you've made is dog crap. They'll be there for you. There was a study that was released. I can't remember where. I think it was on ArtNet. That said that most of the biggest artists of the 20th century were not because of talent, but because of the friends that they had.
Mhm.
And so, apply the same thing. Be there for your friends, and you'll find that many of them will be there for you as well.
Mhm.
And that will get you more views, that will get more people looking. And then, because of how small our industry is, someone will see it.
Mm.
Someone will see it. You don't know who. It might be some woman on a bus in Omaha. Someone's going to see it. Yeah.
So for you, just so much of this comes back to, as you say, relationship building. But again, this really sort of human connection, right? Like
Mhm.
you have to sort of make that on an
Yeah.
authentic level. And yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. People know bullshit. I'm sorry for swearing. They can smell when someone wants something. It's like a
Mhm.
student that comes in. It's just like, professor, I just love your lectures. They're so inspiring. They're so really great. And it's just like, what the fuck? What do you want? What extra credit do you want? I know you got a D, so what do you want? Everyone knows. But if for no reason at all, it's like, hey, do you need help with anything? If you need help, let me know, okay? It's like, oh man, your show's going up. give me some of the flyers. I'll get it around to people, or give me a picture for social media and I'll put it up. Let me do that for you, without wanting anything back in return. That leaves a much better impression than showing up when success comes. You know, when someone is just, they don't have the followers, the situation that you were talking about. It's like, I don't have anyone that's helping me with my thing. It's like, yo, let me buy your book then off Amazon. Let me buy your self-published Lulu book that you put up. Let me get it. And hey, I demand an autograph when you send it to me. Get me an autograph. All of those things, that niceness, that being there in a way that you want people to be there for you,
Mm.
is the thing that's going to launch everything. I promise you. Even if you think that people are too small, or who's doing what anywhere. I'm in Little Elm, Texas. Who's doing what in Little Elm, Texas? And then next thing you know, it's like, well, I'm a TV writer for 13 Reasons Why, and you've just been very mean to me in my play that I was trying to show here in the library. It's like, oh shit. It's really that. You just never know. Being kind is everything. It really is. I can't emphasize it enough.
So we should wrap up because I don't want to keep you longer than an hour. But can I just ask you kind of really quick,
Mhm.
like what's next for you?
Well, I am developing several different plays. I am
Mhm.
also developing a television show that I'm trying to pitch out around different places. It's a strange thing. When I was writing for Netflix, I was in LA and I was in an Airbnb, and the owner of the Airbnb rented out the entire house. So
Mhm.
it's, he didn't live there, he just owned the house and he rented out all the different rooms. And he shot adult videos in the next room, and I'm staying at this Airbnb in this tiny room in Studio City as this happens. He finds out that I am a writer. He looked me up and he tried drawing me into the world of writing scripts for him.
Yeah.
And everything that followed was 75 days of surrealism with this man, his other guests, and his many different schemes. Like, he convinced me of several things. For example, that the pinky toe is the residence of the soul. He convinced me that I might be a cannibal. He convinced me that, yeah, I mean, it's like all of these different things, like
Well, you know.
this pseudo guru, Eastern European man, that was just like, Frankie, I want to make something together. What do we do? Tell me something. Pitch me anything. You're a TV writer. You're supposed to know how to pitch. Pitch me something right now. And I'll be like, Sergey, please. um,
So I guess when I said what's next, are you saying you are writing for adult films or you are not?
I am not.
All
I
right,
am
fine.
not. I am not.
Okay.
No, I can't. I
Can't
have a
do it.
child. No. Yeah. No. But I am developing several different scripts. I'm developing a script about boxing, a script about hippos in Colombia. That is a comedy, where people start transforming into hippos because they too want to defecate in public, just like the hippos. Um, you know, and that's actually getting a lot of attention for some odd reason. I guess everyone loves hippos and poop jokes. So
Well,
hey,
we had the recent defecation in public with
it,
like there's been talk of that in the media lately.
there's
So
lots of it. So
oh
you know,
my God.
it's so natural.
I know.
It's the most baseline of humor, and that's why it still holds even to this day.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
God.
that's really what I've been working on it, and honestly, just trying to uplift other writers, and doing the best that I can to help others. But those are the things that I'm working on the side, and trying to see what the next step is. Just keep writing and just keep doing things, because one of the things you should know about the television world, everyone, and I know we're running out of time, but your next job's never insured in TV.
Mhm.
Um, your next job is, and that's why kindness and making good impressions is so important. A diva attitude might make sure that after your contract is finished, you're not going to get another contract. You're not going to be called back. With 13 Reasons Why, they were very clear. Hey, this is the last season, so if you want to go pursue other opportunities, you can. I'm like, no, it's all good. So they let me know from the get go. There's nothing after this, just so you know.
Yeah.
So you know, it's so kudos to them on that. But yeah, nothing's insured. So, you know, I had a friend who, it was 3 years after his first writing room before he got another writing room. So always just be continuing, remain humble, and keep doing the kindness, that you want to see in the world happen to you. Give it to other people, and that will lead to the next things. It always does. It almost always does.
Well, thank you so much for all of your words of wisdom, and it's been a pleasure having you. if you don't mind, sometimes at the end of these, we just kind of announce things that are happening in the college, and we have a couple of developments. I know Charles is here to just kind of give us a heads up about a new minor that is actually coming up that people in this audience might be interested in. So Charles, go ahead and take it away there.
Thank you. Before I say anything, I just want to thank Franky. Wonderful, wonderful talk. I mean, I just love the way you come across with your honesty and, tell us the real deal, how it is, the ins and outs and sort of how much plugging into the world involves leading with your heart. I really love that. And I think that is just important, no matter what you're doing. I mean, I'm sure it's great in your profession, but I just like letting students know that using that combination of heart and head when they go out in the world is just so essential to not just to succeeding, to making it meaningful, and that's just wonderful. The reason I'm here officially, as Melissa knows, is because we just got approved, and Melissa was, one of our rah-rah people and a great helper. She was the person who really did all of the pushing it through the administrative channels on this, of creating a Latin American and Latino studies, or Latinx, as we're calling it, studies minor at the University of Toledo. We haven't had it before. Thank you for the thumbs up. We're really excited about putting it out there. And it's a great way for students who are interested in the topic area to, plug into different disciplines, courses. We have wonderful faculty, Allende Bonifacio in English, who's just come to us from New York. He was at Borough Manhattan Community College. Manuel Montes, who I think came from Texas, to us. So see, we're connecting with your story today, Franky. Carrie Peralta in anthropology, Jetsa Cáceres in political science, and Shanna Arps are among the people who are on the committee and among the faculty that are giving courses in such areas as anthropology, literature, Spanish, and I'm giving courses in history. So we're just excited to deliver this to students and to have them, contact me or any faculty member that I mentioned who is teaching in the area if you have questions, and we're just here to work for you and to bring this new program, and hopefully you're all going to love it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I should have mentioned, this is Dr. Beatty Matana, who's a full professor in the history department and one of our great faculty stars. So yes, but you are welcome to reach out to him if you're interested.
We're all on a first name basis here.
I was like, oh, Charles.
That's lovely.
All right. But so thank you so much for everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Franky. This was really, really wonderful. And yeah, hopefully there will be another installment of Tell Me Your Story soon. So good night.
Thank you all for having me. I appreciate y'all being my therapist for a little bit, and you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and keep pursuing it. Just it's all yours if you want it. It really is. Just it might take some time, but it's yours truly. Thank you all.